Detroit done through and through. Welcome back. Steve here, flying solo today. Unfortunately, Will's working, so you're stuck with me talking some Detroit Lions football. Before we get into it, hit that subscribe button. You know the deal. Helps us out a whole lot. Appreciate all the work you guys have been putting in on them subs. Helps us out. You have no idea. We're very, very grateful. Um, Listen, I got my little heart broken yesterday with the some of these franchise tags. Now, as much as I wanted like a Jalen Johnson or a Brian Burns, Josh Allen from the Jacksonville Jaguars, deep down, I mean, not even deep down, I knew they were going to get franchise tagged. I knew every single one of those guys was going to get franchise tagged, but I'm still disappointed. Um, I was just being hopeful that we could get a Brian Burns and a Jalen Johnson or a Jalen Johnson. I don't think we could have got both. I was hoping we could get one of those two guys and really have a clear path. And I know free agency hasn't started yet, but I was hoping we'd have just a very, very clear path of what Brad Holmes was going to do in the draft. We will find out in about a week from today, March 13th, new NFL season starts, free agency opens up. So we're about a week out. So again, I was a little disappointed that all three of those guys got tagged. I was really, really hoping that that one of them would not be, and we could really make a push for one of the elite guys. But that doesn't mean that there's not some other players who weren't tagged that don't make a great fit for the Detroit Lions. So I got four names for you guys today. No names that you guys probably haven't already heard, but people that could come in here and help this team, positions of need, high production guys, for the most part. So let's just get right into it. First and foremost, I'm going to start with Jonathan Grenard, I believe it's pronounced, defensive end for the Houston Texans, 6'3", 260 pounds. Young kid still, 27 years old, still coming into his prime, coming off of a career year, 4 years in the league, and last year was his best, 12 and a half sacks for Houston. Very, very productive numbers with another pass rusher opposite of him, that being Will Anderson. So let's imagine, maybe I'm not trying to be biased, but I think Aiden Hutchinson is a better pass rusher than Will Anderson. They've only been in the league. Hutch has only been in the league 2 years. Will Anderson's rookie of the year defensively. So I think if you put Grenard with Hutch, I think you're going to see at worst similar numbers. I mean, you might not get 12 and a half sacks every year, but double digits, 8, 9, 10 sacks. That's very, very productive. That's second on our team. From last year, we did not have a good pass rush outside of Aiden Hutchinson. I mean, obviously you guys know that. You've been following our show or you've just been watching football yourself. You know that our opposite pass rush of Hutch has not been ideal. So Jonathan Grenard would be a huge upgrade. I think he's a realistic signing. I don't think it breaks the bank. I don't know what the market is going to be for defensive ends like Grenard, but I think he's affordable. I think he's someone that we could realistically go after. I think he would be a huge day one starter. He's very good against the run. Me and Will talk about all the time, Kaminsky and Pascal, what do? They're really good against the run, but we don't have that opposite pass rush. Well, Grenard fixes that problem because he's a great pass rusher and he's great against the run. High motor guy too. That's what I really like. I think that's what Dan Campbell looks for, is guys who are going to give it all 100% every single play. Now, that's my favorite part about Aiden Hutchinson. When he's on the field, when it's especially, I'll just say when he's on the field, what you're getting. You're getting 100% nonstop the whole play. I think Grenard would also do that on the opposite side. Those are the types of guys we need to sign, is just those high motor guys, very productive. Keep a lookout for him. I think that's a realistic option. Moving on, number 2. Look, Kendall Fuller. It's not sexy. It's not pretty. He's a name a lot of people in the NFL are familiar with. If you're an NFL fan, the quarterback from the Washington Commanders. He's the best corner available in free agency. It's kind of a weak free agency cornerback class. It's not the best. I think he's at the top. He's not elite. He's not I don't know if he's made a Pro Bowl. I don't think he's every year a lock for the Pro Bowl if he has made 1 or 2 in his career. I think it's obviously, and I'm not saying anything that you guys don't already know, Kendall Fuller or Kendall Vildor. Who are you taking? Give me Kendall Fuller. I think he's just a fit. It kind of sucks. I know a lot of you guys are high on L'Jarius Sneed, not a free agent. Can't talk about him. We've done an episode on him. I'll tag that at the end of this video if you guys want to check that out. But that's someone we have to trade for. I'm purely talking just guys that we can straight up sign without having to give up any assets. So Kendall Fuller fits a need. Detroit can still go out this season and draft a corner in the draft. I think there's a ton that I like personally within the first 3 rounds. We need some cornerback depth because let's just say we sign Kendall Fuller and we have Cam Sutton. That's really all you have for corners. The Lions are releasing Jerry Jacobs, so we don't have any depth. We would have in this scenario if we sign Fuller, we would have 2 corners with no one to back them up in case of an injury. So I can almost bet that somewhere, I would say my guess would be within the first 3 rounds, Brad Holmes would draft a corner for depth at the very minimum. It's just not a deep position for the Detroit Lions. I'm sure there's some other guys out there that are cornerbacks on the team, but let's be honest, they're not very good because we were signing guys from practice squads and Kendall Vildor last year. So we need some depth. Sign Kendall Fuller. It helps. Draft a cornerback in the draft. Problem solved, kind of. Now, 2 names. I've given you guys 2 names. I got 2 more to go. These are some bigger names. You guys want to splash? I kind of want to splash as well. So I'm not trying to call anybody out. I want a big name free agency signing. I was absolutely shocked. And listen, I'm a little bit familiar with the Miami Dolphins cap situation. They're in cap hell right now with all the guys they have to pay. But I'm surprised that they chose Christian Wilkins to be one of the guys that they're willing to just let walk out the door for absolutely nothing. So he's actually a free agent. Shocking. I did not see this coming. He's probably in that next category of guys I was just talking about a little bit ago, and Jalen Johnson, Brian Burns, Josh Allen. I thought Christian Wilkins would get franchise tagged. I thought they would try to figure out their cap another way. I don't know. I'm not very familiar with who's free agents for the Miami Dolphins or whatnot. I don't care. I'm a Detroit Lions podcaster. This is what I talk. You're a free agent. I'm going to look at you and see. I think he is Christian Wilkins, that is one of the top 5 defensive tackles in this league. 6'4", 310 pounds, coming out of Clemson. Coming into year 6, he's still got a lot of good years left. A lot of good years. How old is he right now? Let's look. He's 28 right now. He'll be 29 about halfway through the season. So he's still got some prime years ahead of him. Coming off of a career year, 9 sacks, pressures. He gets it all done, man. He's a plug in the middle. I think the Detroit Lions, what we don't have is, I like Ali McNeil. I like Ali McNeil a lot, but sometimes, I don't know. I'll just leave it at that. I like Ali McNeil a lot. I think if you pair him and Christian Wilkins, we would have a very, very good defensive tackle combination in the NFL. We already have the best offensive line, the best running back duo in the league, one of the best young tight ends. Why not go out on the defensive side of the ball and get one of the best pairings you can get to with Wilkins and Ali McNeil? Interior pass rush, man. Christian Wilkins, what he could do is just push that pocket back right into a quarterback's face, make them very, very uncomfortable right off the rip. And then what you do when you're pushing the pocket back, you're forcing that quarterback, who I know the Detroit Lions have struggled with mobile quarterbacks, but you push them to the outside, make them boot out. Who do we got over there chasing them? Aiden Hutchinson, hopefully a Jonathan Greenard on the other side, maybe some kid we draft in the draft. Just let's make this defense big and fast. I think Christian Wilkins brings both of those tangibles to the table. Great personality. So I always see a lot of stuff for some reason that pop up on my TikTok feed of like game day film, and it's always showing Christian Wilkins, and he just seems like a fun guy. But when those pads go on and that ball gets snapped, not a fun guy to play against. Really like him coming out of Clemson, stud, top 15 pick. Like I said, a lot of good years ahead of him. Been pretty healthy. The last 3 years, he's played in every single game, hasn't missed any time. So that's another factor. We don't want to sign a guy that's a question mark with injuries. I think Christian Wilkins, no questions. He's played, the last time he missed a game was in 2020, and he still played 14 games that season. So health isn't a concern. Production's there. He's going to want some money. How much? Probably in the neighborhood of 20 million, somewhere probably north of that, too, if I'm being honest. But it ain't my money. Detroit Lions have a window. Could Christian Wilkins, this is what a question I'm going to ask myself a lot when I'm talking about free agents. Whatever player I'm talking about, I ask myself, would they have been the difference in that NFC Championship game? Christian Wilkins for me is a firm yes. Kendall Fuller in this situation is a firm yes. Jonathan Greenard in this situation is a firm yes. I think all 3 of those guys, and I got one more to talk about, is a yes, would have been a difference maker in that NFC Championship game. I just can't help but wonder what would have happened if we could have came up with a big stop at some point in that game. But let's move on. Christian Wilkins. I like it. Big splash, big name. Um, I got one more for you guys. Daniil Hunter. We've talked about him. We've talked about him a lot. He's going to want a lot of money. Probably the highest sought free agent this offseason. 6'5", 263 pounds, chiseled, just looks phenomenal in football pads. Just looks phenomenal. Out of LSU. Been with Minnesota since 2015, so he's been in the league for a little while. Obviously, we're Detroit Lions fans. We're very, very familiar with him. We've played against him for what, like 8 years now, 8-9 years. His numbers have been kind of up and down, little peaks and valleys, but he's had double-digit sacks in 5 seasons. This past season, 16 and a half, career best. Let's talk about his durability. The last 2 seasons hasn't missed a single game. Before that, 2021, a little banged up. No huge concern. Injuries happen, shit, whatever. Other than that, he's been very, very healthy as well. So very productive. Let's look at his age. 29, he'll be 30 about also halfway through the season. 30 is not old in the NFL, man. A lot of people just start thinking, oh, you're 30 in the NFL, you're on the downward trend. I don't think so. With today's medicines and stretches and all the information that we have, like 30 is not old in the NFL. Now, I get it. You're taking a pounding. You've been taking a pounding in the NFL against big ass dudes for 8-9 years. It'll wear on you eventually. But I think these guys are just really good at taking care of their bodies. So Daniil Hunter, man, I cannot stop thinking about Daniil Hunter, Aiden Hutchinson. How do you, if you're a quarterback in the NFL and you come to Detroit and you're staying in your hotel room on Saturday night and you're going through your final walkthrough, how do you sleep knowing that you could possibly go against Daniil Hunter and Aiden Hutchinson? That's got to be an absolute nightmare because Daniil Hunter is an absolute stud. And I think he's going to be very high on a lot of teams' radars. I think he's going to be a top priority for probably 10 to 15 teams, somewhere in that range. A lot of people are going to be calling him. He's going to have his choice and his pick of the litter on where he wants to go. So, with that being said, why would you not want to come to Detroit? A division rival. You get to get a little revenge on Minnesota. Maybe you're not happy with how they've handled your contract situation in the last 2 or 3 years. Maybe you want a little payback. Check that box. Maybe you also want to go to a team that's ready to win. That's the Detroit Lions. We're 1 quarter away from the NFC Championship, 1 quarter away from going to the Super Bowl. So this is a perfect situation where not a lot of teams can say that. And as Detroit Lions fans, we've never been able to say that. We're ready to win. We help you check a box and beat a team that, I don't want to say Minnesota wronged him, but I'm not sure why they're letting him just leave. They franchise tagged him twice, so they can't do it again. Essentially, he's pretty much just walking right out the door. So maybe that doesn't sit too well with Daniil Hunter. Maybe he's got that on his mind. Hey, I want to go to Detroit. I want to play these guys twice a year. Now, a lot of you are thinking Chicago has a ton of money. Yeah, Chicago Bears, they do have a ton of money too. But if I have to put my bias aside, the Chicago Bears are on a good trajectory. I just don't know if even after this draft, they're going to be in a win now mode. Now, they could go out and have a phenomenal free agency and draft, and we'll talk about that later on, that they could be a real threat to the Detroit Lions for the NFC North next year, but we're not going to get into that. Right now, as it sits, Detroit Lions are the team to beat. We're the kings of the North. You got to unthrone us. You got to take out the king. So why would Daniil Hunter not want to join that and say, man, I think I could help this Detroit Lions team get over that hump. I think I make a difference in that NFC Championship game and we get to a Super Bowl. If that's his mindset, on top of that, with a little payback, a little chip on his shoulder, Daniil Hunter could be a perfect addition for this Detroit Lions team. Him and Aiden Hutchinson could just wreak havoc for a whole season, man. I'd love to see it. His contract, he's like I said, he's the number 1 guy probably in free agency. So he's probably going to want well over 20 million. He's probably looking at like 24, 25 million a year, somewhere in there. I'm just guessing. I don't know exactly what the market is, but guys, I've given you 2 reasonable options, 2 big splashes. For me personally, here's what I would do. I think it's a must. We have to sign Kendall Fuller. I think we at least have to go give him a fair contract to get him here, just because, like I said, the cornerback free agency class is not exactly stellar. Like, there's some guys out there. All right. I'm not saying that there's not some football players, but Kendall Fuller sits at the top of the list, in my opinion. There's some other guys who could come in and they're immediately an upgrade over Kindle Vildor too. But I think we need to sign a corner. It has to happen. No doubt in my mind. Give me any corner in the league. I would prefer Kendall Fuller because he's the best. And give me Daniil Hunter. Let's go get this Super Bowl. Let's stop playing around. Let's stop worrying about money. Like our guys will get signed. Brad Holmes will find a way to get it done. We can restructure contracts. I know the salary cap's going up. We got like $50 million to play with. We got to re-sign St. Brown. I know that deal's probably still in the works. It's still being talked about somewhere between 26, $28 million, but it ain't my money. It ain't coming out of my pocket. Even though I'm a season ticket holder, I know some of my money is going to these guys, but that's fine. We're talking about marginal numbers compared to $28 million from Steve Perkins. So give these guys their contract. Let's go all in. Let's sign a cornerback and one of these top defensive pass rushers, either Daniil Hunter or Christian Wilkins. I don't care which one. I would prefer Daniil Hunter, but I'm going to be just fine if it's Christian Wilkins. Let's get to the draft. Let's add some more pieces. Let's make a real run. Let's go into next season and be Super Bowl favorites, guys. Let's be the number one team coming out of the NFC when week one starts. Let's have everyone talk about the Detroit Lions when we're kicking off in week one. That's it for today, guys. Hit that comment button. Leave some comments down below. Let me know some other players you're looking out for in free agency. Hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new to this channel. We'll be back later with some more content, guys.